Well, I so appreciate the opportunity, Ron Kavak, for the opportunity to be here with you today. Actually, when I accepted this offer to be with you today, thought we would be talking just with the Education Cooperative, but when I found out the title was the first annual Big Ideas Summit, I have to tell you I was really excited. So I don't know if my focus today is to bring up enough ideas that you make sure you never bring this guy back in the future, that there's some discomfort or not, but I will tell you that from an education standpoint, it is time for all of Kentucky to move forward with some new ideas. I bring you greetings from the governor, the administration, our education and workforce cabinet in Frankfurt. An administration I want you to know that I am privileged, delighted to be a part of. The governor, the administration, the culture is looking for big ideas, bold ideas on how Kentucky can not just continue an incremental improvement, but jump forward. That we look back at this time and say, this is where we were and look where we are now. And you say, is that possible? And I will tell you, it has come to Indiana. Indiana had a time of tremendous growth in all sorts of areas, including education. In Tennessee right now, they are jumping forward, leaping forward with all sorts of new ideas. And I'll tell you, this administration is wide open to your ideas. On the way over here, we talked a little bit about, one question I asked was, is Frankfurt an impediment to the ideas you have, the innovative ideas? And the answer was, to some extent. And I want you to know that I pledge we will do everything we can to get the structure, the framework out of the way so that you can proceed with your innovative ideas and new ideas. There is a buzz about education, I will tell you, across the state right now. I'm very thankful to the legislature. I almost had a heart attack, but in the last hour of this legislative session, they approved two major education initiatives in Kentucky, the first time ever initiatives. The first is called dual credit. So for the first time, Kentucky is funding school districts across the state for students that complete post-secondary college credit while still in high school. So I'm excited to see the numbers are already up this year. I am hopeful that the legislature in the next biennium, they approved $15 million this time. I am hopeful that every single high school graduate in Kentucky has some post-secondary credit, maybe 9 credit hours on the general education academic route, maybe industry credentials that prepare them for a job that would pay 50% more, 100% more than otherwise they would achieve. We know the research is clear, that if a student achieves some post-secondary before graduation, their likelihood of going on in their education, up a career ladder, on academically, being successful at that next level, skyrockets. And I'll tell you why this is so important. Georgetown University a couple of months ago released a report that is causing shudders across the entire country. They said in this recession that the nation as a whole lost 7.5 million jobs. And 80% of those, the brunt of that, was borne by those with a high school education or less. But what's even more startling is that in the recovery, where 11.5 million jobs have been added to this economy, 11.52 of 11.6 million jobs, 99 out of 100 jobs, new economy jobs, new jobs across the country have been filled with individuals with more than a high school education. Dual credit is important. It's the clearest way, just from a probability standpoint, that individual is going to go on in their education. We live in a world where technology is exploding, automation's exploding, and the low-skilled and semi-skilled jobs are disappearing. So I'd encourage you, and I'm delighted, excited to hear about how graduation rates have moved up. in Eastern Kentucky and leading the state. But I would suggest that you have an additional standard, is that you strive for 100% of your high school graduates having achieved some post-secondary credit when they walk across that stage. Because I will tell you, if they walk across in a robe, move the tassel over, and only have a high school diploma, the life that likely awaits them is not one that's going to allow them to support themselves, let alone a family. In the economy we live in today, it takes more than a high school diploma. There's a statistic that's particularly troubling in Kentucky, and that is that about 60% of our high school graduates go on to some form of post-secondary right after high school. The completion rate is not good, something we need to work on for that 60%. But 40% do not. They do not enroll in post-secondary after graduation. And of that 40%, only 2 of that 40 have an industry-recognized credential, a credential, whether it's an IT credential, something in health sciences, advanced manufacturing. Only 2 of the 40 have a credential. So that means we are sending 38 of 40 overall, state overall, out into the workforce, unprepared for the jobs that are being created today. This is an opportunity for you to again lead the state of Kentucky. There's one county I know of, and there may be more, that are achieving numbers approaching 100% in dual credit. You might know Fulton County. It's about as far from here as we can get. Far western corner of the state. They're up above 80% in dual credit. Their goal within 2 years is to get to 95%, and they believe they can do it. Fulton County can do it. With your focus on graduation rates, I know you'll be able to hit that 95% or 100% as well, and I'd suggest you set that as a goal. There was a second part that the legislature approved, and that was $100 million to ramp up career and technical education. There are many locations in Eastern Kentucky that have applied for some of those funds. We're going through the process right now. You may have seen in the news that, in fact, it created such a buzz all across the state that there were 114 applications looking for $500 million. So when I thought 100 million, I was thinking, really? $100 million? That's a lot. But between the applications that have come in and the ones that I know are likely to come in January for the second round, there may be $1 billion worth of requests. I'm hoping, possibly, not making an announcement today, that the legislature continues extending this initiative in the future. And I want to talk about a minute about how we talk about career and technical education. I would suggest we eliminate the term from our vocabulary, the phrase vocational education. Many of us, especially in my generation, that's what we called it. In other words, you either went to college or you went to the building over there, which in one county I know of is next to the maintenance shed. It was built in 1964. And the health sciences area has cots and a CPR dummy, and that's about it. But it's been in second position in terms of education. The gym may have new mahogany floors. You know, the Performing Arts Center may have new seats and new acoustic system. But the career and technical education has been neglected in many areas of Kentucky over the last several decades. The goal of this initiative is to support you. If you decide to take on the goal that 100% of your graduates will have some post-secondary, whether on the career and technical side in the trades, plumbing, HVAC, advanced manufacturing, IT, which is a huge opportunity in Eastern Kentucky, health sciences, the demand in the health science industry is just through the roof right now. If you decide to take on that goal, what we are looking for is communities that say, that's our goal. But you know what? Our facility's too small. Our equipment isn't relevant. In our machining area, we have lathes from World War II that still teach the fundamentals, but you know what? When they go into the job, it's a computerized milling machine. Our equipment isn't relevant. And we're going to embrace this goal. So what the committee of 10 that is looking at this, is we are looking for excitement in communities that you have taken on as a goal that every student on the career side, on the academic side, will advance their post-secondary education before they graduate. I'm hoping it's a requirement for graduation. There's a lot of I suspect, pushback of that. But if we want to be successful as a Commonwealth, as communities across the Commonwealth, high school diploma is not enough. I'd ask you to consider, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but if you agree with me on a couple points, 3 points here. One, that every child is uniquely and wonderfully made. Second, that every child is born with a sense of wonder and a natural curiosity. Third, that every child can be successful in life. Do you agree with me on that? That every child, it's possible? You know, as we talk about revitalizing economies in eastern Kentucky, and quite frankly, a whole host of areas right now that are feeling pain as still left over from the last recession. As we think about that, what does it take to revitalize an economy? What does it take? It likely takes that entrepreneur that is willing to take a chance to start a business, to do something, to pull others together to accomplish something, to build something. It could be in the IT field, could be in the as a tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 supplier for manufacturing, which is also growing in Kentucky. How many entrepreneurs do we need? How many do we need in eastern Kentucky to be successful? And I would suggest to you this morning, very, very few. Can you imagine if we had one entrepreneur out of every 2 graduating classes in every county in eastern Kentucky, and we did that for a period of time? Economic problems are over. So who are these individuals? Who are these individuals that are willing to take the risk to go out there to start a business, that have a love for eastern Kentucky, that they will never move? Who are these individuals? Are they in the room today? I wish they had a tag on, that we knew who they were. Because you know what we would do if we knew who those individuals are? What would we do? We would provide a form of education, a specialized form of education, meeting every one of their needs. If we could look back in time and say, this person will likely be, we know that they can be an entrepreneur, we would fill every single need they have. We would not say that an 8 to 3 o'clock education works for every child, because if it doesn't work for this child, we know they're our future. We need to pour in something differently. Because you know what? They might have a huge gap at home. They might live in a family. Socioeconomic status doesn't determine who the entrepreneurs will be in the future. They may be in a family that has never prioritized education in their own lives, have never gone past high school, or in some cases, 8th grade. There may be a gap in completing assignments at home. Well, you know what? There are some schools that started around the country that certain days of the week are open 7 to 7. There may be a nutritional problem. There are schools that provide 3 meals a day. Maybe a dental problem. It's hard to learn when you have this pain that goes on day after day. There are schools in this country that are tied to a medical clinic that take care of that. If we could identify those entrepreneurs, we would fill those gaps. We would not let that child not be successful, because our future depended on that child receiving a great education. So I would suggest to you today that our forms of education become increasingly specialized. It's happening around the country. Become specialized for the student that's gifted in direction A. Become specialized for the students that's gifted in direction B, in C, in D, in E. And that we fill in the gaps beyond the gaps that we are statutorily required to fill, which is 8 to 3, show up at class. So if this entrepreneur I was talking to you about a minute ago, let's say they're in chapter 12 and they're really not getting chapter 12 too well, but the class is ready to move to chapter 13. What happens in many schools today? It's time to go to chapter 13. It's a Swiss cheese education. It's a soft foundation. Doesn't allow building that structure, that future, that they can reach their most fulfilled life. What are some schools doing around the country? They're providing a half day on Saturday. Some of the teachers are coming in on Saturday and allowing that child to go back to chapter 12 to make sure every single gap is filled. I want to talk to you another area, and that is on specialization in education. We are not, I don't believe, going to be able to achieve the specialized forms of education, especially in high school, if we all offer everything in our high school. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think if your goal is that every one of your graduates be at least, pick a number, 1/4 of the way onto an associate's degree in applied science in a career field, that is going to happen in every high school across the Commonwealth, or even across Eastern Kentucky. It's going to take specialization. It's going to take, as Ron talked about earlier, forgetting city lines, county lines, and building cooperatives among superintendents and school districts and say, we're going to focus on, you know what? We are going to be the best in Kentucky at, pick it, IT and construction trades. We are going to be the best over here in Kentucky in advanced manufacturing and healthcare. We are going to be the best in Kentucky in preparing people to come back and be stellar teachers in education areas and, pick it, HVAC. So I would suggest you forget about boundaries. You know, if we had if we were invaded, and I think we have a license to talk about this, right? It's big ideas. Let's say we were invaded by Tennessee, you know, that they decided they were going to take over Eastern Kentucky. And so they, you know, come in on horses and guns, whatever. And they start marching into Eastern Kentucky because we're going to take it over. What would we do? Would we say, you know, that's Harlan County's problem. You know, doesn't really affect us. You know, we're up here in Perry, living the dream. You know, they'll solve that. Might get a little bit closer, you know. Well, yeah, they moved up to Laurel County. Yep, everything's fine here. No, what would we do? We'd band together. Say this is ridiculous. We're not going to let anybody invade Eastern Kentucky. We're going to work together to solve this problem. Now, Frankfurt, I will tell you, is well aware of the body blow that Eastern Kentucky has taken through no responsibility of their own. The changing situations in the country, you know, we could all talk about the reasons. We're well aware of the difficulties. Our governor, Matt Bevin, talked about his inauguration speech. What was the central focus? United we stand, divided we fall. He talks about it often. We are united as a Commonwealth. And if I don't get anything else across today, I want to make sure that you understand, I personally, this administration, we are prepared. You come up with bold ideas, you come up with new ideas, and they don't fit the framework at all. I want to make sure that you can accomplish those. You move on those ideas, and I'll guarantee that we will be a partner in you moving ahead. You know, I've heard, actually it's in Eastern Kentucky County, there's city school system, county school system. Family has 2 children. One wants to be in the orchestra, one wants to be a welder. County school system, I might have these backwards. County school system, great welding program. City school system, great orchestra. Those students today are not able to pursue their dream, to pursue the area that they are most gifted, because the superintendents have not been able to get together and figure out how financially, because of the SEEK formula, they have not been able to figure out how to work it out for those students. And how much time do we have to work out for those students? Maybe one of those students is the entrepreneur that we're going to count on, that one per county every couple of years. We have to stop that. We have to provide greater choice for parents and students in finding the program that works best for them. I'd suggest you work out among Eastern Kentucky some kind of overall memorandum. I don't think it's going to happen in Frankfurt. Come up with some kind of overall memorandum. 16 states around the country have come up with their overall memorandum that makes it easy for parents and students to pick the education that best suits them, that they're most excited about. We just saw on the slides a minute ago, the rocket ship taking off, the flight simulator. What'd that student say? Boy, this really interests me. I can almost guarantee you that student's going to go on to be a success in life. We've captured their imagination, their interest. But what if they live on the wrong side of the line? Not eligible to go in that program, right? Unless the superintendents can work out the $3,000, $5,000, whatever it takes to go from one to the other. Come up with something. Erase the lines. Go to more specialized forms of education. You might have schools that provide both student training, adult training, might provide childcare. There's all sorts of forms of education to fill the gaps for the students that you have. Up in Connecticut, they were having difficulty with students graduating that had been in trouble with their juvenile justice system. Guess what? They came up with a new form of education. They worked with their cabinet for health and family services, had social workers assigned to the families, one for every 30 families that really weren't at the school working with the student. They're working with the families. They're showing up on Saturday night. Where's Johnny? How's he doing? How can we help you as a family? How can we help you move ahead? You know, getting those 6 post-secondary credits is important. We need some tutoring help, some weekend help to get there. Those are the kinds of ideas, because we cannot waste any human capital. We cannot take the chance that that entrepreneur that our county, that our area is going to rely on, doesn't have the gaps filled in their life. Specialize education. You know, there was a poll that was released a couple of months ago that talked about happiness. And it was a Harris poll, and they said, are you very happy? Now, I don't know what we'd get in here, but it said, are you very happy? And if you think back to that child, I think many of us may be my age. We have 9 grandchildren. It's a delight of life. But you see that baby there that finds its foot for the first time. They're excited about it. They're very, very happy. And it lasts for a week or two. And then there's another limb. Anyway, they're happy. But the result of the poll, and it's actually declining, the result of the poll is that only 31% of the adults in the U.S. say, I'm very happy. And there's another interesting part. 80% say it's not dependent upon wealth. So 31%. This is a strength that you have in Eastern Kentucky. Ron alluded to a past, and it is a past, political life. A past political life. I actually call it my 15-month vacation across Kentucky. And got to talk with people across the state. But I'll tell you, Eastern Kentucky stands out in many areas, but one area in particular. And that is people in a relatively short time in the conversation, usually in the first 5 minutes, will say, I love where I live. I love my home. I'll tell you, I rarely heard that around the state. I rarely heard it. I'd hear our community's doing good things, or look at what we built, or some other topic, but I didn't hear that. I love my home. That's a strength that you have that isn't anywhere else in Kentucky. That's a strength that when you find those entrepreneurs, and we will only find them by filling the gap in every single child's life, when you find those entrepreneurs, they are going to stay here, they are going to build here, and rebuild the economy as they go. So my advice to you, be bold on education. Come together as a region. Forget city and county lines. Think of it as a common problem. You know, a friend, and I'll finish here. A friend of mine, someone close to me, had a serious medical situation, and here in the last year. And you know what the doctor's advice was? Said, if we're going to cure this, we're going to need to do something aggressive. And our best chance to make sure your life is successful, is medically successful, is to be bold right up front. And time is our enemy. I'd suggest to you, time is our enemy. In an economy that has struggled, that has been hit with a hard blow, we need to move. We need to find the big ideas, the bold ideas, and implement them with a sense of urgency. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you this morning.
Let's give Secretary Heiner another big hand. We received the Race to the Top grant, and we've called it the Appalachian Renaissance Initiative because there is a renaissance going on in our schools, in our communities. So we created what we call a Da Vinci Award, the person who embodies the European Renaissance. And so we want to present to Secretary Heiner the Da Vinci Award for artisan and entrepreneurial leader with creative and innovative spirit, promoting the value of all education and learning. So, Secretary Heiner.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It'll go on the wall where I can see it every day. Good to see you.